Good morning to the Board of Supervisors. It's Gary Margadant from up on Mount Beta Road, and I'm speaking today in my position as co-chair of Napa Vision 2050. And I have a little something to read about where we stand on democracy and the support of the public trust. Napa Vision 2050 strongly advocates that our county government retain outside counsel to investigate the train of events leading to and after Supervisor Pedroza's recusal on his vote on February 1st, 2022. You recently took the same action for Supervisor Ramos, and an independent investigation is again warranted for Supervisor Pedroza. We need our elected and appointed officials to champion the environment as well as agriculture, who support a democratic system responsive to voters, not to deep-pocketed and wealthy, nor to personal financial interests. We urge you, our county leadership, to support the public trust and fully investigate the information which may include that Supervisor Pedroza had a conflict of interest in his decisions of Walt Ranch. Not only is Pedroza's political career in question here, but the integrity and dependability of our county government to work for all of the people. We urge the Board of Supervisors and County Council to do the right thing, and this is signed by myself and Eve Kahn as co-presidents of Napa Vision 2050. Now, they're hearing a lot of other messages that are coming in today. I'm sorry to hear that, they find some of this discourse offensive, and that's a shame. It really is. The discourse is something that's part of our history, and it's part of all of the things that we should value in our democracy, and that is public speech, public discourse. I don't necessarily agree with putting signs on some people's front yards, but, the message is still there. The message that we have to do something about this, and we are recommending that the Board of Supervisors investigate this matter so that we all have an equal understanding of the issues and the actions of all of our elected representatives. So thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Good morning, Eve Kahn. I'll be very brief. I'm going to repeat what Ryan Gregory mentioned as we started this meeting. We're all looking for the truth, and that's really all we're asking about. We're not here challenging all the work that Alfredo has done. We're just looking at this one incident, very similar to the county's request for independent analysis for Supervisor Ramos. We're all looking for the truth. Thank you.
Chairman Gregory, members of the board, I too am here to pledge my support for Supervisor Pedroza. He is a lifelong Napa resident, Napa City Council in 2012, the youngest and first Latino, appointed to the board in 2014. He is a young, hardworking member of this community, working for the people of this county. I have seen him sit as a member of this board, as a chairman. I have seen him on the front lines of the fires. I have seen him walking through the neighborhoods with his family. I have seen him take on the tough issues. What this small group has done to leverage social media to spread conspiracies and misinformation is disgraceful. Whether on the wrong or the right side of the county, there has always been a level of civility and respect. But in this divisive society that we live in today, with all the media outlets catering to this type of behavior on the national stage, it was only a matter of time before it creeped into Napa County. It's wrong, and Alfredo, we stand by you. Before deciding to spread this type of misinformation, I'd ask all of you, whether you're in this room, standing on the street, or hiding elsewhere, to do your homework. There will be an investigation as you seek, and Alfredo will be cleared. I am confident of that. Oh, what a tangled web we weave when we first practiced to deceive. The hyperbole, the hate, the racist innuendo, this will no longer be tolerated. Whether you are in this room or hiding elsewhere, you know who you are. How dare you drag this man and his family into this filth? His mother, his father-in-law, questioning how a man can achieve the American dream as if there's a litmus test that we have to pass, a socioeconomic status, a car, standing on the corner waving the American flag while propagating this filth, this disinformation. No more. Today is a new day. Today is a new beginning. We will no longer stand for this, and we stand by you.
Good morning, Jim Hinton, Napa, California. I was cut off here at the microphone a couple weeks ago, and you even went as far as to black it out and censor my comments. And I've been hearing at the farmer's market you're making up all kinds of things that I said that I didn't say. But, you know, transparency is where it all begins. You should keep everything on the record and be transparent about everything. At the beginning of this meeting, you put out a disclaimer that we should be making comments to items that this board has jurisdiction over. Is the board planning an Alfredo Pedroza birthday party or something, and you have jurisdiction over the celebration of this? Because I'm not familiar with what jurisdiction you have as a board to celebrate Alfredo Pedroza's behavior. Now, Gary Margadin asked that you investigate him. I believe that's something you could do. Like he said, you investigated Supervisor Belia Ramos. Why can't the community investigate Alfredo Pedroza? Let me remind you, and this should also be investigated. February 14th, 2018, he threatened Barry McCormick over Mike Holcomb and me making ads about Visit Napa Valley. And he did it in front of Ryan Gregory and Bill Dodd right down there at that steakhouse at the Archer. Then everybody who's in the know has seen the text messages with him and Ryan Klobus sexually harassing Belia Ramos. And I tell you, if this stuff wasn't true, they'd sue me. They'd have sued me by now if this wasn't true. But we know it's true. This man's behavior has been undesirable from the start. When he was elected to city council, he flip-flopped on medical marijuana, giving us access. He just stabbed people in the back. He showed his true colors then. And it's true that George Altamira helped make the call to Governor Brown to put him in here. And obviously, maybe he might have some business deals or something going on. I'm not sure. I haven't seen all the evidence, but we deserve an honest investigation. And you should let the community pick who investigates it, so you don't cherry pick somebody who's going to come out with some kind of endorsement for his behavior. Because if you read the recent information put out by George Kalianitis, I think it's fair that we make sure the FPPC answers a lot of these other questions that maybe Alfredo Pedroza didn't phrase to him. It was almost like he did his own kind of investigation. And we deserve a real independent investigation, and the people should decide who you give the money to investigate the scoundrel.
Good morning, Supervisors. Kelly Anderson from Angwin this morning. Thank you for your time. I think it's important to look back to several years ago when Mintran began the visioning process, and there were pillars that we upheld: transparency, integrity, environmental concern. We, as residents of this county, have participated for decades in the public process to elicit change, to protect our environment, to protect the health and safety of individuals, and have been met with a blowdown of money that has made the public process for just the average resident impossible. We're asking today for an independent external investigation of Alfredo Pedroza's involvement in Vinedos AP LLC, the 6 parcels immediate adjacent to the Walt Ranch. There is ample evidence that he certainly is involved in that development of that property. Here is a list of the 6 parcels, and we'll leave this with you, and what the parcels were sold for by the previous owner. Multiple millions of dollars. You can move over and see what Mr. Pedroza paid for them. There is an understanding that a conservation easement is on some of those properties, but basically it just doesn't hold water that you buy 6 parcels for $2 million when the actual previous purchase was $22 million. We really need to get to the bottom of this. If Mr. Pedroza is being defamed and maligned, and this information is simply not correct, and he can find a way to thread the needle so that he is not involved, an independent investigation will reveal that fact. But right now, the decisions that Mr. Pedroza has made, the votes that he has made over the last year, are all in question. And the reason this is important, this county is on fire. The fire is not out. The groundwater is depleted. The creeks are dry. The wildlife fencing is everywhere. The coniferous forests of your upper watersheds are in complete environmental collapse. We will not be able to live in this county much longer in the upper watersheds. Yet, in your current project websites, continuously you show 1,000 acres of natural vegetation rolling through routinely to be converted to vineyard. We have asked you over and over, remove agriculture from the AWOS designation in the general plan, separate agriculture from watershed, protect our watersheds. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good morning. Chuck Sheneman, 134 Acacia, Napa. Many of the speakers have said this before, but I'll say it again. I am constantly amazed by what each and every one of you do for our community in so many realms. And Supervisor Pedroza, I've been astounded by what you've been doing on housing issues and MTC and all the rest. I saw you we were in a Zoom conversation a couple of weeks ago, and I was I just sat back and said, this guy is working so hard for our town. But at the same time, I'm just troubled and concerned. My wife Felicia and I wrote a letter to along with some others, expressed some of that concern last week in our email to you. There's potential conflict of interest that's come about, but it just seems there's just new revelations that show up, and I think it's time for all the facts to come out, to be out in the public, and to resolve them. We don't know where that goes. We don't know what it is. But I think until those actually do come out, I don't know how you as a board can take a truly legitimate action on related issues until those have come out and have been resolved. One other thing we did point out in our letter email to you was that it's certainly an item I think this board can work on, and that is the standard of conduct in terms of how one defines a family member. I think that's something that can be done locally. I certainly don't want you to be conducting your own investigation. I think there was a huge amount of time, effort, and money spent on previous investigation, but I think this is one that needs to move on to gather all of the facts from the appropriate bodies. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Elaine DeMann, and I'm here today speaking as a proponent of democracy, ethics, fair play, and justice. I want to bring your attention to the Napa County Code of Ethics and its core ethical principles, by which you all pledge to uphold the highest standards of integrity, accountability, and service in all that you do. You pledge to demonstrate the highest ideals of honesty and fairness, and to ensure that family, social, political, or other relationships do not inappropriately influence your conduct or judgments. Furthermore, you pledge to conduct yourselves in such a way that you will not be placed under any financial or other obligation to outside individuals or organizations, and that you will place the public interest ahead of personal interest. The code also includes a manager's credo by which all supervisors and managers pledge to model the highest standards of ethical behavior and to create a culture that promotes ethical behavior and compliance with the letter and spirit of laws, regulations, and policies. How many of you can look back and truthfully acknowledge that you have lived up to that pledge? The Code of Ethics opens with the following quote from Justice Potter Stewart: "There is a big difference between what you have the right to do and what is right to do." Which brings me to the FPPC, which doesn't seem to recognize the influence that is so obvious to the rest of us of the huge campaign contributions some of you enjoy. And we should not forget that these laws were enacted by lawmakers intent on covering their behinds while keeping the money spigot wide open. The FPPC has also chosen the most narrow definition imaginable to define immediate family for the purposes of attributing a conflict of interest. Indeed, most, if not all, other federal regulatory bodies have a much broader definition, which does include in-laws. To rephrase what Justice Stewart said, just because it is the law doesn't mean it is either right or just. Our nation's history is fraught with laws that were neither right nor just. There is one still on the books today, a law that says it is okay to take Indian children away from their families to raise them as servants. That same law is what allows ICE to separate children from their families at the border. So I am challenging each and every one of you to revisit the Napa County Code of Ethics, reflect, and honestly assess whether you have lived up to the pledge you made when you took office. And please, hold the words of Justice Potter close to your heart. There is a big difference between what you have the right to do and what is right to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine.
Good morning, Chairman Gregory and Board. I'm Lisa Saran, Napa, California. I am a concerned citizen in a growing group of people who are concerned about good governance, transparency, ethics, and morality. To be sure of what I was speaking about this morning, I looked up the definitions of all of these. Good governance is the process of measuring how public institutions conduct public affairs, manage public resources, and guarantee the realization of human rights in a manner free of abuse and corruption and with due regard for the rule of law. Democratic framework of good governance has 7 prescriptive criteria and qualities. 1, accountable. 2, consensus-based. 3, equitable, efficient, and inclusive. 4, participatory. 5, responsive. 6, transparent. And 7, upholds the rule of law. Transparent governance means that government officials act openly with citizens' knowledge of the decisions the officials are making. Ethical governance refers to the values and ethical behaviors, processes, procedures, culture, ways of doing and being that ensure high standards of performance. An effective board will provide good governance and leadership by behaving with integrity and by being open and accountable. Among these critical elements are act according to high ethical standards, identify, understand, and manage conflicts of interest and loyalty, maintain independence of decision-making. As Elaine said earlier, and I also want to say that Lisa Hirayama spoke for me as well in asking that there be an outside independent investigation of these alleged conflicts of interest. The Board of Supervisors recognizes, as Elaine said, it is critical that all public officials and employees exhibit the highest standards of integrity, accountability, and service to merit the respect, trust, and confidence of the public. And I want to remind that another part of the Code of Ethics is to focus on core values with a goal of creating an ethical culture in the organization. When you all became supervisors, you took an oath of office, which said, and I'll read the entire thing here because it's a reminder. I, Supervisor, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Thanks, Lisa. Good morning, supervisors. I'm Mayan Schwer from Big Ranch Road, and I have been following Supervisor Pedroza from the early days in the Palmez situation. If you remember, we had Measure D, and that was passed by all the citizens in Napa County that we do not want a helicopter, do not. And then I was paying my taxes downstairs, and I thought, gee, why don't I just go up to the third floor and just ask what is happening with the Palmez helicopter? And they said, oh, don't you know? On next Tuesday, Palmez is on the consent calendar to be admitted to the ALUC. The ALUC, that's the, Airport Land Use Commission. Who knows what they are? But you know what it is? If Palmez cannot come in the front door, he will go in the back door. So I called the county council, and Tom, this is not directed against you, but your predecessor, but maybe you can learn something from him. And he said, oh no, you know, the optics are very bad, very, very bad, but it's not illegal. Can you imagine? He said that it looks bad, but you can do it. So I don't know what law school he came from, but it must be a pretty good school. It's Bolt Hall. But maybe one class he skipped. And I'm sure he must be cognizant of what is the centerpiece of common law jurisprudence. Justice must not only be done, but appear to be done. This is Rex versus Sussex Justices, 1924 King's Bench 256. So what does that say of how business is conducted in Napa County? You can't come in the front door because we passed Measure D. You can come in the back door because you contributed to political office. I think that's very bad. So Lisa has said that before me, and she is a Japanese American and Chinese American. I'm a Chinese American. So am I not allowed to walk the streets bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and command myself as if I lived in this place, or because I'm a person of color, I have to be, well, you know, whatever. Lisa and I don't do that. All we want is that this board conduct themselves with integrity, that you do what you're supposed to do. And it's very simple. If you didn't go to law school, it's very simple. It's the smell test. You see a rat, you smell a rat, it squeaks like a rat, it is a rat. There are only two things that you do. You either call Terminix or you hire a case of Febreze and cleanse the room. What are you going to do?
Thank you, Meg.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kimberly Wilkinson. I am a resident of District 4. I have sat downstairs and listened to all of you speak on behalf of Supervisor Pedroza, and I agree with you. He is a good guy. He has done a lot for you, and I'm not disputing that. And I don't think anybody here is disputing what he has done. What we have seen, though, is corruption in the Napa Valley at the highest level. I don't think that all of you want to turn your heads to what has been going on. I get you're here. I'm here for other reasons. I'm not here to dispute he's a good guy. But what we have is evidence that states otherwise, that he has maybe been doing something he shouldn't be doing. And if I were Supervisor Pedroza and the citizens were requesting an outside investigation and I had done nothing wrong, I would encourage that. I would want people to know. I would want to clear my name, and I hope that he does. I hope that you recommend that we do an outside investigation. The citizens want transparency. We elect all of you to do the right thing. The FPPC looks for minimal legal requirements of ethics, and they can choose whether to investigate or not. But the FPPC does not speak for the citizens of Napa County. There are three sides to every story. There's your side, there's my side, and there's the truth. And it's up to you guys to get to the bottom of the truth. I am asking that we have an independent outside agency come in and investigate the claims, the alleged charges of Alfredo Pedroza. I think all of you tonight, when you go home and you look in the mirror, you need to ask yourself, did I do everything that I could to represent all of the citizens of Napa County? Did I do everything I could do? Did I agree or vote to pursue an outside investigation? Because I think you should. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jason Kishinev. I'm a candidate for Congress. And I see that all the wine country oligarchs came out to support the insider real estate trading mogul. I believe we need an outside investigation, independent investigation to investigate insider real estate trading. This is not a personal attack or a political attack. This is a corruption issue. I have come to get friends all over the political spectrum, from anarchists and communists to conservatives and libertarians. Usually they think each other are all pretty crazy. But a funny thing happens when corruption becomes apparent to all the people. Everybody starts seeing a lot of things the same way. This is the building of class solidarity. When people on the left and people on the right are sending me message about the same corrupt official and the same events, it's strange but beautiful. And the message is clear. Alfredo Pedroza should resign. We must end this wine country oligarchy and elect candidates who will put people and nature before profits. We need politicians who will refuse donations from the Halls, the Trutchards, or the Wagners, who will look at attempts to deforest our hillsides and say, "This shall not pass."
Good morning, Supervisor Dan Muffson. I'm here for some civil discourse and public respect. Just want to remind you, you were elected to manage the business of the County of Napa on behalf of all the citizens of the county. The secret purchase of the land adjacent to a major controversial property by Supervisor Pedroza seems to be a violation of the public trust. He never recused himself, and when the purchase was discovered, he said he didn't own it, then he did. His wife owned it for a while, but now he doesn't, and then he paid taxes on it. So, in an attempt to make it seem that all was well, he asked one question about the legality of his father-in-law to the FPPC and used their response to pretend that he was innocent. Does this seem acceptable to you or anyone working in this building? It's a violation of the public trust and the trust of anyone working for the county. And if you were disturbed enough to obtain an outside counsel to investigate the facts surrounding Supervisor Ramos's early COVID vaccine, but don't seem concerned about this conflict of interest, it really requires the same level of outside independent scrutiny. And the longer you wait to do this, it more seems like a cover-up by all of you, and that's deeply troubling. Thank you.
Cio Perez, St. Helena. Good morning, all supervisors. I see today not being anything other than addressing our process here in Napa County and the way it should be done in regards to a democracy. I'm not challenging Alfredo's position as supervisor, but things have been found and brought up as far as items of evidence that need to be looked into and need to be researched. And in my own opinion, on Supervisor Pedroza's behalf, the quicker the better, because the better and the quicker this is settled, then we can continue business here in the county with the full supervisor board. So I would encourage you to agree to having an outside independent investigation of this incident and the question of conflict of interest in regards to Supervisor Pedroza. Now, the other thing I would like to say is there's been somewhat of an insinuation of racism here. I'm of Hispanic heritage, Mexican heritage, very proud that I have that heritage. And as a family, we've been here in the county for quite some time. I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist, but those individuals that are being vocal at this time, it's more a question of whether or not the county is being ethical, whether they're being transparent, and whether they're being honest in regards to the situation amongst you as supervisors. Obviously, in the public, there's a question as to the honesty and transparency of maybe more than just one individual on this board. So this really should be addressed, and it should be addressed in that way. And the reason I can say that the individuals that are being noisy at this time are not racist, I know a fair number of them personally, and they're friends. They don't treat me any different than anyone else. So again, the question of racism, I think, is being brought up as a point of confusing the matter more than anything else. The question truly is, do we have a democratic process here? Are we going to have a thorough investigation? And is it going to be an investigation that we as the citizens of this county can depend to be honest, ethical, and transparent? Thank you.
All right. Good morning, supervisors, Chair Gregory. My name is Amber Manfrey. I am a geographer and fifth generation Napan, 3360 Soda Canyon Road. And I'm here today to call for an independent investigation of Alfredo Pedroza's interests in Viñedos AP and any potential conflicts of interest related to votes on remote vineyards, remote wineries, road improvements, and fire management expenditures. Members of the public have uncovered information that calls the integrity of Alfredo Pedroza into question. They aren't paid for this work. They do it because they care about decency and fairness, and they want the best for this county. Legitimacy as a leader comes from the personal integrity that a leader and a person in a leadership role has, and that personal integrity builds trust with the community. That's the order in which things go. So right now, the public is not assured that there is integrity happening in the board. That's been called into question, and that's why we need a rigorous investigation by an independent entity that has subpoena powers, because as people are in the community are going and trying to figure out more pieces of the puzzle of how things are working with Viñedos AP and with adjacent properties and developments, there's definitely a point at which as a member of the public who isn't a lawyer or doesn't have subpoena power, the information flow just stops. But there's definitely more there, and people deserve to know what that is. And as others have mentioned, if there's no conflict of interest found, of course, that's perfectly fine, but the community deserves to know for sure. And the only reason not to investigate, given the information that's already been brought to light, is if there's something that somebody is trying to hide. I'm calling on you, Ryan Gregory, Diane Dillon, Brad Wagenknecht, and Belia Ramos, to take the steps needed to assure all of us that the public interest is upheld. Thank you.
I did not come here planning to speak to this body, so good morning to all of you. I'm going to read a little bit of what I wrote to Alfredo. I'm going to try to be a little less harsh and a little more respectful from what I wrote and what I sent to the board. But first, I would like to say, and I may not get through this, so I'm just going to say some things right now. Alfredo, if you are what some of these people say you are, then man up and show us, prove to us that that is true by clearing yourself of all this suspicion. Because I'm new to this process, but I may be here more often. And I'm thinking that it's time for all of you to show the community based on what's happening, pulling people like me out of the closet to come down here and say things about stuff that, needs to be said, because it's your duty. It's not people asking. Maybe you followed the letter of the ethical law, but that's not enough. I mean, not the ethical law. You did not follow the letter of the ethical law. You followed the letter of the law, which has been built in this country to protect people like the Waltz and like you in situations like this. You appear right now to be an errand boy for the powerful people with money in this valley. That's what you appear to be. Whether you are that or not depends on what you do and what the rest of you do from now on. This is not something that's going to go away. Even if this gets decided in your favor, this will tarnish your reputation no matter how many people stand behind you. When I moved to this town, some 30, 40 years ago, I raised my son here. I couldn't walk down this street because of the way I look. I know in your lifetime you have been subjected to that kind of prejudice. So right now, what I see in you is you are a token. You are a puppet. You're an errand boy for the companies and the businesses and the outsiders who have come to this valley for nothing but personal self-interest. It's time for you to look at yourself long and hard. This could be a watershed moment for you. I'm not out to get you. Nobody is out to get you. We're out to see the truth. And it's incumbent on all of you to make sure that the truth comes out. And nobody is going to trust what you do if you do it in-house. Nobody is going to trust that. So if you want a solid community that can come together with truth and honesty, then you know what you need to do. And so I think hopefully some of you have already made that decision, because from what I've heard in my polling of what goes on in this board and in this county is the decisions have already been made before any of us get to speak here. And so if that's the case, then the oligarchy has taken over not only in the nation, but in this county. It's time for this to stop. You got kids, right?
Thank you, Dana.
Well, think about it.
Is Beth Nelson? Beth?
Thank you. I just want to say, first and foremost, this is not about race. You know, some of you probably knew my grandmother, Pancha of Yountville. She was born on the reservation in New Mexico and ran away from the reservation to work the fields, marrying my grandfather who came here from Jalisco. They settled in Yountville. You know, I grew up in this town and caught a lot of racism as a child, being singled out in my own adopted family as well as by the community, back when Napa was a lot less brown. I, too, am very, very proud Latinx. This is not about race. I know racism when I see it. This has nothing to do with race. So please, we need to lay that one down. Supervisors, please put the external investigation on the agenda. Brad and Diane, this is your legacy. Do not leave this office as the dumpster fire it has become. There seems to be a huge cry for help from the inside your walls. You need to take this seriously. We are not an audience, as Ryan Gregory says. This is not a show. Alfredo and elected, there is absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to accumulate wealth, but please don't do it at the expense of the public trust. On your salary, the numbers just don't add up. The FPPC was the first step in this process, but not the last, and we really wanted to give Alfredo a chance to tell the truth. I've worked as a documentary filmmaker by trade, but I've had to lie low since the pandemic hit. But I'm still researching a lot, as you all can see. I just got off the phone with the man who was given a tour of the property by Alfredo Pedroza to discuss the design of Alfredo's new home on Atlas Peak. This man wants to stay out of the issue, but County Counsel, I will give you his name, or you can probably just ask Alfredo. You must put the conflict of interest on the agenda. I did a public records request on the external investigation of the COVID shot, the throwaway shot that Belia got at the end of the day, after Min Tran concluded Belia did nothing wrong. That external investigation cost $110,000. Please ante up for this one. We are not an audience. We are concerned citizens who only want the truth to come to light. Please do your job. Like I said, I get a lot of calls from the inside. Given my position, I'm not trying to run for office. I do this because I'm passionate about justice. But I do get a lot of calls, and one thing that is being thrown around, and I heard somebody mention it in public comments, is there's the sexual harassment piece, and that to me is very concerning. I've had the word toxic jock culture given to me to describe what's going on. This is not okay. I'm not okay with that. So we need to put this Vinedos AP LLC to bed. Alfredo, you can have a house on Atlas Peak. You can have a vineyard. There's no shame in that. But be honest about it. And we need to see the numbers, because there's no way a person on your salary could be doing this. Something is not adding up. Please tell the truth. and we can move on from this, and then we need to address
Thank you, Beth.
the toxic culture within your walls. Thank you.
Anyone else?
That concludes the callers.
Last call in the building. Any more public comment? All right, I'm going to close public comment for today. I see Supervisor Pedroza has his hand up.
Thank you, Chair Gregory, and to everyone that came out today, to my colleagues, to our county staff, and to our community, and to my family. I am sorry for the moment we're in and what we have experienced. I've been in office, as many of you heard today, for over 10 years, from a council member to the Board of Supervisors, and we have a track record of following the rules, of ensuring that we act with our values and our morals. Those aren't words, those are actions that we've taken. And we are working to respond to the complaints made by some of you that were here today with the FPPC. They are the Political Fair Practice Commission. They are the organization that looks at potential conflict of interest. It is correct that I reached out to them proactively. In spite of that, we did recuse from the Walt Ranch, and we'll continue to recuse on the Walt Ranch. We hope to hear from the FPPC soon. But what has been very troubling is the personal attacks on my family. We do this to give back to our community, to make a difference. And this won't be the last time we disagree on issues, but the fact that we disagree on issues and projects doesn't mean we result to what we're seeing today. As a community, we're all here for a reason, to make a difference, to give back, to enhance the quality of life. And I respect all our individual stories. But what I have seen is disappointing. I've lost sleep over it. It's impacted my family. And I hope that we can move forward as a community where there is a level of respect towards each other, a level of dignity, a level of compassion. That's up to us. I'm committed to ensuring that the FPPC has the information they need and when they want. That's my commitment. They are that independent body to do what exactly you have asked to be done. So again, to my colleagues, to the county staff, I'm sorry for this situation, especially to my family. We ran for public office to make a difference. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break and then get to item 11A right after that.
Recording